The courtroom air was tight, packed with judgment, murmurs, and the faint smell of polished wood and old paper. The kind of silence that feels louder than shouting. Bailiff's voice cut through it. "Ma'am, remove your jacket before." Approaching the bench, his tone was clipped, procedural. But the moment he said it, you could feel something shift. The woman in question didn't argue. She didn't plead or hesitate. She just nodded once and started unzipping her plain, black jacket. One motion, smooth and quiet. All eyes followed that zipper like it was a fuse. Something was coming, and no one knew what, except her. Her fingers paused at the sleeve, and then she pulled it down. That's when the room changed. On her left, forearm just below the elbow, was a tattoo. It's not loud or flashy, no colors or flourishes, just a symbol, no larger than a silver dollar. A combat cross wrapped in wings. You could hear the hush ripple. Even the judge's gavel stopped in midair. His mouth parted, his breath caught, his eyes locked on the ink. Not with confusion, but recognition. Something about that tattoo reached into his memory and pulled something buried. He didn't look at her like a defendant anymore. Her name was Claire Monroe. Most of the room just knew her as the woman being charged with harboring a runaway minor, Eli Pierce, 16 years old. But Claire had lived many lives before this one. Long before foster care, before courtrooms and whispered gossip in small towns. She'd been a soldier, a healer, a protector. She'd done 2 full tours in Afghanistan as a combat medic. Not just a patch-wearing staffer. She was boots on the ground, in the blood and fire. Twice wounded, twice decorated. And the tattoo that wasn't decoration? That was legacy. Claire had earned that ink the hard way. It was 2009, a village just east of Kandahar. Her convoy got hit, IED followed by small arms. Chaos, fire, screaming. She didn't flinch. Ran through open ground to reach a young private who was bleeding out near a burnt Humvee. She stayed with him, holding his wound closed with her bare hands until the air evac came. He didn't make it. His name was Specialist Jordan Hall. She got the tattoo 2 days later. A promise burned into her skin. No one left behind. Not on her watch. Not ever. When she came home, she didn't talk much about the war. Most veterans don't. But she didn't retreat from life either. She built a home just outside town. Modest place, 1 story, tin roof, overgrown with sunflowers and stray dogs. Inside were photos of forgotten soldiers. Names few remembered. And over the years, a rotating group of foster kids who needed a roof, a meal, and someone who wouldn't give up on them. Claire never asked where they came from, just whether they were hungry. She didn't preach. She didn't pry. She listened. And for kids like Eli, that was everything. Eli had shown up late one rainy night. Thin, quiet, shoulders curled in like he was afraid of his own shadow. Bruises up his ribs said he fell off a bike. Claire knew better. She didn't press. Just handed him a plate of food and said, "You can stay as long as you need." That was her way. No lectures, no paperwork, just warmth. He stayed. Weeks turned into months, but systems catch up. One visit from a child services worker turned into a legal mess. They called it harboring. Claire called it mothering. When the summons came, she didn't protest. She showed up, and that's how. She ended up here, standing in front of a judge, tattoo exposed, silently being read by a room full of strangers. That symbol on her forearm, it wasn't a fashion statement. It was a relic, a message. It said, "I've seen things you haven't. I've done things you won't. And I will not apologize for who I am." Every line of ink told a story. Every scar beneath it held truth. She didn't cry, didn't explain, just stood steady, let the silence speak for her. The judge, his name was Walter Briggs, was known in town for being sharp, unsentimental. 20 years on the bench, no tolerance for excuses. But right then, he wasn't a judge. He was a man standing face to face with a ghost from his past. Back in 2006, Briggs was a National Guard lieutenant. First deployment. Nervous green, his convoy got ambushed north of Baglon. He'd been pinned behind a vehicle bleeding from the leg, and a medic. A woman ran through fire to get to him. Bandaged him, dragged him out. He never saw her again, till now. He looked at Claire like he was seeing a phantom. Same build, same eyes, same tattoo. Didn't say it out loud, but you could see the recognition wash over him like a wave. His grip on the gavel loosened. His jaw clenched. He stared not at the defendant, but at a soldier, a woman who had once carried him through fire. The courtroom faded. There was only her and that mark and everything it meant. He took a breath, deep and unsteady, then spoke. "This court has reviewed the evidence," Judge Briggs began, his voice lower than usual. The room leaned in. Technically, the defendant acted outside state protocol regarding the care of a minor. Paused. But not outside the bounds of humanity. Glanced down, then back up. This time, meeting Claire's eyes directly. "There are people who follow rules," he said. "And there are people who follow something higher. Conscience, duty, sacrifice. This court recognizes the difference." Then he nodded once. "All charges are dismissed. Case closed." Could have heard a pin drop. Then a gasp. Then nothing. Not the kind of silence that comes from confusion. The kind that comes from awe. Even the bailiff who'd barked at her earlier looked down, ashamed. A few veterans in the back stood. Not in protest. In respect. One woman near the front clutched her chest. Another whispered, "God bless her." No cheers, no applause. Just a room full of people realizing they'd just witnessed something sacred. A quiet kind of justice. Claire didn't smile. She didn't flinch. She just nodded to the judge, picked up her jacket, and turned to leave. Not proud, not defiant, just steady. That's who she was. It's not a hero in headlines, a hero in boots. She didn't need a crowd to validate her. She just needed to walk the path she promised she'd never leave. That path led her right back to the courthouse steps, where Eli stood waiting. Tears in his eyes, fists clenched like he was still. Bracing for the worst, she stepped beside him, laid a hand on his shoulder. No lecture, no dramatics, just warmth. That's all I needed. That's all she gave. "No one left behind," she said softly, her voice barely above the wind. 3 words, a creed, a life. They nodded, eyes full, and they walked down the steps. Together, the sun caught her sleeve, lifting it just enough to show the tattoo again, wings wrapped around a cross. A battlefield promise that had saved lives in war. And now, one more in peace. See, heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes. They wear jackets with worn cuffs. They shop at grocery stores. They pick up prescriptions. They raise children that aren't their own. But every so often, if you look close, if you really look, you'll see it. In their eyes, in their hands, or maybe in a small, fading tattoo, symbol of who they were and still are. They don't ask for recognition. They just keep showing up. It's doing the hard thing, the right thing. Claire Monroe didn't ask to be seen. She didn't give speeches or demand praise. She stood, not to be celebrated, but so others could rise. That's what medics do. That's what mothers do. That's what warriors do. And in a world that often confuses power with volume, she reminded us all, the strongest courage is the one that doesn't speak at all. So if this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Share it with someone who believes in quiet heroes. Don't forget, the people who change lives rarely make noise. They just never leave. Anyone behind?